I use the Omnilux LED Man near infrared light mask for over 1 year. I purchased this at the end of December 2023, and I want to share my experiences here and if I can recommend it, what this infrared light is actually about, how it helps our skin or is supposed to help our skin, and would I actually recommend it for other people, and what it actually did for my skin. So I will already sum up in the beginning what I think about it. In general, I would say it depends where you are starting from and if you want to go over the top with your regimen, with your skincare regimen, and if you're willing to take a small risk, I would say. And of course, if you're ready to spend some bucks, because this thing especially is not cheap. So this will depend on you if you're ready to spend that much money for this and see whether it's actually even worth it for the results you get, depending on where you are. So let's start with me. This is where I started and this is where I'm now. As you can see, the differences after 1 year, you could discuss about it. But before we go deeper into that, I want to explain a bit about why this infrared light thing could help you and what actually the risks are here and what are the rumors about facial fat loss. So let's start at the basics first. What is light? Light is just part of electromagnetic radiation that is all around us that we are able to see because it has a certain wavelength. So if light has this wavelength, then all the radiation that comes afterwards and before has a wavelength that we are not able to see. So this means the wavelength that comes afterwards gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And the wavelength that comes before is longer and longer. And light is basically here. Okay, and then we have red light and infrared light. And red light would be, for example, somewhere here. Let's actually use red. And then we have infrared light. Let's make it a bit darker, which would be a bit longer. Okay. And the mask that I'm using has infrared light. So why is it important to talk about wavelengths? Well, basically, different wavelengths have different ways of penetrating our body, and they differently get absorbed by our body. And if we would visualize that, then let's say this axis means depth of penetration, okay? And this is just the wavelength, which we also can see on the upper part here, right? And it would basically mean the depth of penetration goes like this, really high penetration from high wavelengths. And then we go up again with the penetration, okay? And now you would ask me, well, if the longer waves are deeper penetrating the body, then why after some point, as you can see on the curve, the shorter wavelengths are actually even also deeper penetrating the body, so it gets inverse after some point, right? So we have, in the beginning you could say the longer the wavelengths, the better it penetrates the body, but then after some point, at some point, it's actually inverse, where it's the shorter the wavelength, the better it penetrates the body again. So it gets inverse, as you can see on the curve. Well, why is that? It has basically to do with energy and the energy level that the wavelengths can provide to your body and to the molecules of your body, and how well they vibrate with the molecules and the atoms of your body. And basically it is a curve like that, okay? So this would be energy provided to body. Sorry for my writing skills. And then you would say basically after some point, which is actually the X-ray radiation, the curve gets inversed, where actually the shorter waves are able to penetrate your body better and better, which is not necessarily a good thing, because those do actually already damage, because the energy, they may have a too big impact on the molecules and the atoms of your body, and they bring things out of order. So now how does it work with the red light in our skin? Let me show you again. Let me visualize it for you. So we have our skin here with the layers. We have the epidermis, the middle layer, and hypodermis, the last layer. And then we have the hair follicles here, okay. And now red light is able to penetrate the body up to a certain point. And it doesn't really get as deep as the infrared light, because as we have talked about it, the infrared light goes deeper into the skin, is able to penetrate it deeper than the red light, because it is longer. The wavelength is longer, as you can see here on this visualization. So this means if we get red light, it's able to go up until the upper dermis. Okay, so up until the upper part of our middle skin layer. So it can only be absorbed by everything within that area. Okay. So here, this is what it's able to impact. Now, infrared light would be able to go deeper to the hypodermis and further, even to your muscles or joints. And that's the difference between red light and infrared light when penetrating the body. And this thing here uses near infrared light, which is part of infrared light. It's not the deepest part of red light. It's like the beginning. If you would go from the red light towards the longer wavelength spectrums, then the first one that's coming is the near infrared light, which basically just means it is able to impact deeper layers of our body and our skin. So now we know already infrared light penetrates the body deeper than red light, and especially skin layers. Red light doesn't come as deep as infrared light. This could be a bad, a good thing, depending on what kind of view you have. And we're gonna get to that. Why does this infrared light and red light help our body? Basically, with its wavelength, it interacts with our molecules in a certain way that promotes beneficial processes and skin health in our body. And these processes are not only but also collagen production. And the thing is that infrared light is able to travel deeper into our body and affect more cells, different cells, like not just the upper skin layers, but actually deeper, even our hair roots and muscles and joints, which normal red light is not able to do. So now what is the controversy here? The controversy is that we have, beyond the impact of the red light, of the normal red light, we have at some point in the hypodermis fat cells. Now the difference is, as I said, is that the infrared light can go deeper into the body and promote these benefits and processes in those parts. And even though it generally is beneficial or seen as beneficial, with the fat cells, that's a controversy, that the infrared light interacts with the molecules in our body in a way that causes them to heat up. And that triggers a process called lipolysis, which is basically making the body burn fat or help burn fat. This, in a sense, is something a lot of people would like to have, but in the community of people who use this thing on their face, it is not a thing that you want to have for your face, because you don't want your face to lose facial fat. Because obviously you want your face to look young, plump, and full. And there's people who report a loss of facial fat after using the mask. I mean, a lot of things could happen that this kind of stuff happens. Just because they use this mask and they lose their facial fat, it's not that this mask would be the reason that this happens. But according to science, there should be some sort of correlation, but it's still not really, from what I've seen, nobody's really sure if it really happens or not. There's a discussion about a temporary fat loss that is just for some time, but as I can see it, nobody is really sure if it actually does trigger fat loss in your face or not. If you check out my pictures before and after 1 year of usage, I would say it doesn't really trigger fat loss. I mean, you decide, did I lose some facial fat or not? Actually, I think I even gained some facial fat, but this might also be because I started to have sort of a lean bulk, just eating more, basically more food and going to the gym more. But in general, I would say that I really lost facial fat. Maybe in the end, it really depends on the person itself and on the skin they have. Maybe this thing just reacts differently to different skin types. In the end, again, people have to decide for themselves if it's worth for them to use it. So now, what were my personal experiences with the red light LED mask? As I said, I bought this at the end of December 2023. I put this thing in the beginning, especially in the first few months, for like 15 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week on my face. In the evening, after I have washed off my face. And what I was a bit concerned about is that I had red spots every time. I still have them, but in the beginning I think I had them more. I was triggering sort of my rosacea, especially there where the LED light was really close, so like here on the nose, on the cheekbones, and here on my forehead. But I just continued using it because the red spots went away after a minute or two. So I just said, okay, let's just continue it. Maybe it's something that should just appear, because maybe it's something that's just because of my skin type and triggers something. But if it goes away after 1-2 minutes, maybe it's not a bad thing. And I just still continued using it for 4 to 5 times a week for the first few months. And I can say, besides the thing that I don't see such a big difference in the pictures, as we can see again, me before, me after a few months, me after a year. If we check all those pictures, I think maybe one thing is really different is that my dark spots under my eyes are not as big as afterwards. I feel like it's much brighter, the skin under my eyes. Other than that, I think the main point here is that it really depends on where you are starting from. Now, as you can see, I started from a place where I already had little to no wrinkles, no acne, no scars. So there was maybe not that much to work on. And if you are coming from a place where you really want to see big differences because, maybe you have scars, maybe you have acne, maybe you have a really uneven skin, maybe you have really deep wrinkles on your face. I think if you would use it like this, from this starting point, then you probably will see noticeable differences. This is what I have seen with the research I did on the internet regarding people that are using this. So if you really have deep skin, wrinkles, and so on, then you might see a big difference. Otherwise, when you're starting from a point like me, you might not see a big difference at all, if at all. And you might even risk this thing with the fat loss, where I'm not really sure, because as you can see, for me, I wouldn't say that I lost facial fat, but who knows. And then the other thing is actually the surprising thing, benefit for me, was I felt a lot better when I was using this thing. Why is that? Actually, I guess it's because I live in a colder country and we have quite long winters. So this thing felt like I was actually getting some sun, right? When there is no sun and there's deep winter and you put this thing on the face and just close your eyes, it feels like you are in summer and lying on the beach or somewhere and you have the sun shining on your face and it triggers something in your body, which, I mean, it obviously does, as we said, but it also triggers something, I don't know, like emotions in your brain or whatever, where you really actually feel like you are in the sun and it makes you kind of happier. Okay, because we all know sun has a really big influence and the weather on our mood. And whenever I use this, I felt better afterwards. I really actually felt better afterwards. So I would say, as an equal benefit to the skin, is actually the feeling that you get from using this. And I really felt it. So if you're somebody who's struggling with missing sun in the winters, you could even try this year. It could actually help with this. I mean, it helped me with that for sure. Other than that, I feel like I have a better skin tone, right? So my skin feels like kind of more colorful in a good way, more youthful, more even, and maybe even some wrinkles that I could have had or had, like really fine ones, went away. But I'm still not sure about that because even if you compare these really close-up pictures, I can't see big differences. But still, after I started using it, people were commenting on me like, oh, like especially those ones that didn't see me for a longer time, they were like, oh, your face looks really vibrant, youthful, something like this, you know. So even if I would not go into the sun, it would look like this, it would have this healthy color that you would get if you would be in the sun, which I was not. So these are my experience with the Omnilux mask. If I would recommend it, as I said, it depends where you are starting from, especially if you have a lot of things to fix, to do regarding your face skin, then yes, it could be very beneficial. Otherwise, if it's really something you want to do on top of your skin regimen, you can try, but don't expect too much. And obviously, it costs a lot, so you decide.